Thanks for checking out SYMFONI on YouTube. Please be sure to subscribe and like our videos for updates.
We have joining us this morning Aisha Yesufu, a civil rights activist. She's also been joined in the studio by another activist, Ariyo. Also, we have members of the political class from the opposition political parties, Kola Ologbodiyan, publicity secretary of the opposition People's Democratic Party, the PDP, and of course, the national chairman of the National Conscience Party, Dr. Yinusa, Tanko. Good morning, and thanks for joining us, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Good morning.
I'd like to start with Aisha. Let's begin with that comment by Senate President Lawan Ahmed, where he said that those who are insinuating that there is a removal of that clause 50 subsection 2 of the Electoral Amendment Bill are just rabble rousers, and rather than do that, why not lobby your distinguished senators? Your comments.
Well, I think first and foremost, the Senate President should understand that he's a public servant, and there's a reason why there's a servant attached to his public, and that he shouldn't speak to citizens in that manner. He does not have any capacity in whatever form to address Nigerian citizens in that manner. And things just don't happen out of nowhere. There is a reason why that was so, and that reason has to be acknowledged. If he doesn't want to acknowledge it, it's okay. But what needs to be known and understood is the fact that Nigerians are insisting that there must be allowed that electronic transmission of results. It must be allowed. This is the 21st century. And I've seen another senator, Senator Ndume, who has come out to say that the North, a good part of the North, we don't have the capacity to be able for transmission of results electronically. And I must say that if there are parts of Nigeria where that is not done, then in what way have they been able to get the dividends of democracy? Can they just say, because in the over 20 years that they've been voting, they've not gotten to a place where they can actually have in their area results being transmitted electronically? And also, as a senator, what has he done for Nigerians? What has he done for the people that are voting for him for all of these years to ensure that they are able to get this? And I think one of the things that we need to understand is that the National Assembly should understand that we are citizens, and we are active citizens, and we are not slaves, and they should not in any way whatsoever, abuse our sensibilities with such statements that they made. And another statement that the Senate President made was the fact that he was complaining he got just 900 text messages. He should expect 90,000 or 900,000 the next time he tries anything funny with Nigerians.
All right, Dari, the Speaker of the House of Representatives had earlier, also dismissed this allegation, and yesterday we saw the Senate President also denies that there was any form of secret alteration of that document, talking about the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. Based on the submissions of the leadership of the National Assembly on these, allegations, was there any basis for those allegations in the first place?
Again, thank you very much for having me. Good morning, and let me especially thank AIT for this special coverage. And of course, you've been supporting this process right from the word go. I would like to say that I think the evidence is there that this bill was tampered with. And it's important. I have not seen the Speaker actually criticizing or condemning members of the House of Representatives who have come out openly to even allege that about 20 provisions of the Electoral Act were doctored, and nobody has disputed that. What I think the Speaker should do, like my dear sister said, is you shouldn't, speak in a manner that offend the sensibility of Nigerians. What ordinarily we expect the National Assembly to do is to investigate why such a thing happened. There was a joint committee of the National Assembly on electoral matters. The whole essence of having a joint committee is to reduce, the post-passage conference meetings, such that at the, technical level, a lot of things probably must have been sorted out. So to have an easy passage, and that was the whole essence of having a joint committee, because they realized that this is a bill of national importance that was going to generate serious national interest. So it's good for almost the two chambers to have consensus on almost every aspect of this bill. And for the Speaker to dispute such is totally, unfortunate. But however, like, what was our response to him was that he should constitute a committee to investigate what happened and the people behind it. And I think even when this bill is passed, it's important that we should also do that, because it portends grave danger for our democracy or legislative governance in Nigeria, because henceforth the people will no longer have confidence in any document before the National Assembly. People want to I know it's the responsibility of the people to maintain eternal vigilance and to always scrutinize bills, but you can see that people are scrutinizing a bill without that self-confidence that the National Assembly must have done what is right, and just, or there could be a section of the National Assembly that is trying to, to undermine, certain aspects of a bill before them. As we've seen in the last couple of days and recently, we've seen an attempt at using almost every bill, to insert, extraneous provision into every bill. Like the Electoral Offences Commission bill that was just passed by the Senate, and a lot of insertions have been discovered that are totally, not in agreement with the spirit and letter of the intendment of such a bill. And people have started bringing some of those things out. So I think this 9th National Assembly must walk themselves back and know that they exist for the people. And like I've always said, Section 14(2)(a) is very clear. Sovereignty belongs to Nigerians, and the National Assembly, which is an arm of government, derives, their power through the constitutions. And because the sovereignty always belongs to the people. So what we expect the Speaker to do, and those who are making this allegation, is for them to properly investigate and tell Nigerians. And I think we will still demand for that investigation.
All right, please allow me to still stay with the civil society. Aisha, today the National Assembly is going through a clause-by-clause amendment of the Electoral Amendment Bill. Now, part of what the civil society has asked for, since this issue came up, is the end of voice voting, so that each representative or the constituents of the representatives at the National Assembly can know how their representatives voted. So each person should vote. Today's, proceedings at the National Assembly, do you think that is going to happen?
Well, that's what should happen. That's what we've expected. But then the 9th Assembly has shown Nigerians over the time that it's not a 9th Assembly. It's not an assembly that should be trusted, if I can use that word. And sadly, that's the reality. And these are people that were voted to be representatives of the people. Yes, eternal vigilance is always needed in a democracy, but you put in people that you expect that they're going to act with competence, with character, with capacity, and they're going to be loyal and patriotic to the country, and not just only about their selfish interest. But the most important thing, of course, on this one, there should be, electronic voting also at the National Assembly, so that we know everybody, these are their stands. And then when you'll be able to rate these lawmakers based on what it is that they stand for and the way that they vote. And in terms of all of these insertions, there are also reports now, there are other different insertions that we are saying in some of this. So for example, like I was just reading yesterday in some of the reports about hate speech finding its way into the electoral bill sort of, and also the issue of criminalizing self-determination. And I'm just going to say here right now that, look, self-determination, it's a right. Everybody has a right. I have a right to come out and say, I don't want to be a Nigerian anymore. My people don't want to be Nigerian anymore. It shouldn't be criminalized. The thing that should happen, and I think Nigeria, especially even when we look at the Constitution, and that's the reason why people are asking for a new Constitution. In the place where you're talking about the indivisible, indissoluble, I mean, what is that? What is sacrosanct is good governance, accountability, transparency, right? The rule of law, separation of power, development, security of lives and property. These are more sacrosanct than shouting all over about one Nigeria. We can't have a nation where people, after 20 years of democracy, are being said not to have the capacity to transmit results electronically, which of course isn't the right thing. But we expect them to be able to vote so that in the subsequent elections, we'll be able to know what every stands demands of every of the lawmakers. And then what are they afraid of?
All right. We still have the politicians in the House, Kola Ologbodiyan of the People's Democratic Party, Publicity Secretary of that party, and of course Dr. Yinusa Tanko of the National Conscience Party. Mr. Ologbodiyan, of course, the committees on INEC in both chambers of the National Assembly have done their work. They have laid, their reports before the National Assembly, as it were. As the federal lawmakers begin consideration of this bill today, and hopefully Nigerians expect that they pass it today, are you optimistic against the backdrop of these allegations of secret alterations, which the leadership of the National Assembly has since dismissed?
Thank you very much. During my last session on this program, I did say that by the information available to us from the committee, that the committee will do what is right. And the reports that we are still receiving from our members, the committee, like we rightly said, have concluded its own assignment and has laid it before the National Assembly, both floors of the chambers. What's imperative today is for every member, be he a senator or she a member of the House of Representatives, to vote in national interest. How do you vote in national interest? You vote in national interest by ensuring that what to support during the clause by clause is that which majority of Nigerians have demanded for. And it's imperative to let this set of members of the National Assembly to know that every parliament, every set of presiding officers have their moments to seize. For the Ahmed Lawan leadership and Femi Gbajabiamila's leadership, this is a moment for them to seize in the history of this country. And they must just do what is needful and what is necessary. They must lead the senators and the members of the House of Representatives to seize this moment and support the cause and the demand of Nigerians. And what is the demand of Nigerians? We desire a country where elections will be free, will be fair, will be credible, will be transparent. That's the demand of Nigerians. And Nigerians also believe and say that given our moment in history now, the only way that this can be achieved is to go via electronic transmission of results. Because we have had situation in the past where we did electronic voting through the card reader, using it as accreditation. Then the result that will come out of the card reader about the number of Nigerians accredited will differ from the total number of votes that is cast in that election. And when you take this to the tribunal, the electoral tribunal, the tribunal will tell you that, oh, no, they cannot use card reader because it is not known to law. So we now have a process since 2018 that Nigerians have been demanding that let us vote electronically and also tally the results electronically. Then we begin to hear that some people in the parliament are doctoring the bill and saying that, oh, yes, you can vote electronically provided the tally will not come electronically. How do you say that? That's contradictory. So for this set of National Assembly members, they have their own opportunity to seize this moment and do what history will remember them for. But it is strange that we are even hearing overnight and this morning that this organization, the AIT, has offered to cover the proceeding of the House free of charge and make it live. But we have heard that they have rejected that offer. And it is strange. Because whether clause by clause, whether voice votes, or whether each member will vote clause by in their personal capacity and on clause by clause basis, you still need Nigerians to know who voted in what direction. And that is why our parliamentarians cannot be defined in context of their legislative activities. Because you don't allow the public to know what we are doing. So it is strange to us in the People's Democratic Party that the leadership of the House will reject an offer that is free of charge just to enable Nigerians their right to know what's happening in the parliament. So whether we are confident that they will do the just or they will not, it is left for them. And it's left for them to desire what history will remember them for. That's our position.
Dr. Tanko, the question to be asked again is, who's afraid of electronic transmission of results? Why is anyone afraid of that? Why does it seem like, politicians do not want, this to be included and embedded into the Electoral Act? Because it is, it is a form of the electioneering process that makes things clearer, and at one point or the other, everyone will be able to benefit depending on how the votes were cast. Why does it seem as if some members of the political class are not interested in this?
Greedy individuals, anti-democratic forces, those who do not want the right of the people to prevail. Those are the people that these particular questions will be directed at. Why do they not want it? Because they are not truthful to themselves. I once had an opportunity of having a one-on-one discussion with the present INEC chairman. And then he told me that all the time that INEC is always trying to make its own election, the election of Nigeria, better, bringing in ideas and all. But it's appalling and dehumanizing to find out that he said, it is you, the politicians, that manipulate the system and make our electoral system very unacceptable. And then at the end of it all, the blame comes to us as INEC. So you want to imagine, we have legislators who came in through votes by the people and hoping that they will do what is right for the interest of the people. They end up giving you or speaking to you in such a manner that make you look that as if you are a subservient to them. I find it very demeaning for people like me and other people that come from the northern part of this country to always give us this particular backward looking and backward position as saying that we in the north, we cannot do X, Y, Z because of certain A, B, C, D. But when it comes to the transmission of money from BU and any other part of the country or Sokoto, it is acceptable, it is done clearly, nobody kick against it, and nobody said that we are backwards. But when it comes to issue that will give us the semblance of truth that will, for long, we depict and represent, now people are demeaning us and telling us that it's not true that we cannot transmit any result from any part of this country. The whole world itself is under a satellite. Every part of this nook and cranny of this country is easily accessible by the internet. Go to Google Net, you can easily find out. All villages can be accessed. So what they need to do, I expect, if I hear people talking like that, I expect that they will say the mechanism and all the apparatus that is needed will be put in place. Even though I had some of our colleagues and brothers and sisters speaking from our Niger Delta brothers and sisters in the Niger Delta too, in the riverine area, saying that probably if that happens too, they have challenge in the riverine area. That also is not true. People are discussing and disseminating information even in the air nowadays.
Dr. Tanko, what was even referred to was electricity. Electricity was what was referred to.
That was even demeaning the more. So why should the people not have electricity at this jet age? Why? That means that the people are not governing them rightly. Because the simple demand, Nigerians are not greedy. They only needed simple ways of life to make them survive. What do they need? Good roads, electricity and all. You talk about Nigeria as if it's one here we are going to in China. China is larger than us. America is larger than us, but almost everywhere is network. Come on, Borno State, we cannot access for what? So they should find and question themselves that that means that they are not doing what is right for the interest of the people. And let us make this clear. Anybody that finds himself in the position of power today, he should remember that in no distance time he will leave that position of power. But if he makes laws that are good for himself at this particular point in time, that particular law that he made will resonate with him in the nearest future. And then he will be happy that those laws that they made is there for them to use in the nearest future. But if they make a faulty law, they should also know that out of those faulty laws and the way in which politics is being managed in this country, are some of these issues that lead to the insecurity in this country as of today.
All right.
But if they get it right now, we need to get it right now. This is the foundation. We need to get it right now for the benefit of ourselves, for the benefit of our children, for the benefit of our constituency, for the benefit of our local government, state, and then federal government of Nigeria. And this must be done. We will not take anything less.
All right, Dari, accountability and, of course, transparency are key ingredients in governance. And, of course, the media and civil society are all critical stakeholders, you know, in this process. AIT has, over the years, covered live of major events in the National Assembly. In fact, we covered the live section of the Senate when it passed the doctrine of necessity in 2010. That was just one of the major events we covered from the National Assembly. We offered, just like Kola Ologbodiyan said, to cover today's proceedings at the National Assembly. You know, we're talking about the consideration and passage of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill live for free, but the authorities in the National Assembly turned down that request. Is this something Nigerians should be worried about?
You know, democracy has been, you know, defined as government of the people. I decided to take this route simply because sometimes there are agencies of governments, including representatives of government like ministers, like we've seen under this administration, who have not internalized what democracy exists for, or what democracy is all about. That when they found themselves in government, including some of the institutions like NBC, that their responsibility is not just to sanction airing stations, their responsibility is also to ensure that these stations are able to discharge their responsibility to strengthen democracy. Now, what AIT has been trying to do over the years is to strengthen not only democracy, but institutions of democracy, and to ensure there is transparency and accountability in governance. What we've seen so far is an attempt to deny Nigerians that sense of transparency and accountability. And I'm expecting that NBC should at least get in touch with the National Assembly for them to know or further explain to them that this is the whole essence of democracy, for there to be accountability. We shouldn't be hearing NBC, we shouldn't be hearing the Minister of Information only when they think that certain things have been said, either in the social media or on TV, on radio. In essence, their responsibility is not only just to gag or to attempt to undermine free speech, but they also have a responsibility to also tell the National Assembly that what you are doing is not right. I decided to take this part first for people to understand that they also have that responsibility. And also the leadership here. Like it has been repeatedly said here, I think this is a good moment for them to seize, to show that indeed they are leaders that believe in the whole essence of democracy and legislative governance. My pain is that the two presiding officers today in the National Assembly are men who have sought this position for years. We saw what happened in 2015 when they sought the same positions. And now they've been given this mandate. Right from 2019, they've not been able to exert themselves as the people's representatives. And that is quite painful. And look at what has happened today. Today should have been a moment of joy for them, to show Nigerians that indeed they are legislators for the people. They are legislators who have come to protect the sanctity of democracy. They are legislators who will protect the interests of Nigerians. These men were elected. And it is also important, we need to also find out in the International Parliamentary Union and some other regional bodies that our parliaments belong to, whether this is the same traditions they have been doing, because in other nations, people are able to profile their lawmakers based on their history of voting. Today, you can't write a book on any parliamentarian in Nigeria and say, this is the mindset of this parliamentarian, this is the profile of this parliamentarian based on his history of voting. the president of United States of America is Joe Biden. You will see clearly the pattern and issue of his voting. Joe Manchin, the man who today has been trying to, stop the ending of filibuster in America, he has history. So also across other nations. You go to the UK, go to France, go to all. You can easily, Google. You can easily go through the records of the parliament for people to see that indeed this is the way these people are voting. We need to, I think, on our part as activists and civil society, I think we still need to dismantle this military mentality that has permeated, our system of government, because that's exactly what is still going on. And we have not been conscious enough, I think, to put pressure on the National Assembly. I think openness should not only be about financial scrutiny and financial transparency. Openness should also be, that's open National Assembly, that's transparency, should also be about ensuring what we call transparency in the voting pattern of our legislation, which is even the most critical aspect. Because the constituents, the people should be able to ask, what have you done in the last 1 year, in the last 2 years, 3 years, or in this legislative session? Come and give us a report. I voted this on that, and this idea of voice voting, it's more or less like a coven arrangement. Because it's in a coven that we do all sorts of things that people chorus, all of this. Even in coven sometimes they do, I've not been there anyway.
You're clearing that.
It's important. It's just, we just have to say this because they are making us look like a nation that doesn't worth anything. Backward. Because when you look at other nations, they traveled abroad. And sorry, let me quickly clarify something. On the technical aspect of what Dr. Tanko said, to just complement what you said, and I think it's important for our legislatures to know that this issue of electronic voting, the device is not going to replace the fact that they can still have their papers. It is going to complement it. And the issue of electricity and internet, technically speaking, are untenable in the sense that electricity-wise, the card reader will spend more time, the card reader that is not in dispute will spend more time than the tablet that will be used to capture the result and sent to a dedicated portal. A tablet that can work for 2-3 hours is only going to we're going to use it for 10 minutes or less. Because what INEC has simply done in Endo and Ondo is actually just snap and send. They've not even done the real time in terms of imputing the raw figure. So snap and send is something that can take place under 5 minutes. And also they should know that where there is even challenge, there is a challenge in terms of network. It's like me moving out of this studio, going out of this building to look for network to make a call. The people can also snap these results on their device and go to an area where there is network and still send. That does not in any way detract from other processes that INEC have put in place. But the most important, the moment you know that the result has been snapped and sent to a dedicated portal, it becomes so difficult for anybody to want to attempt again to doctor this result at the next collation level. And that is one thing that I think some of these people are trying. So they are not trying to protect the interests of the North, really. It is unpopular politicians who believe that they are going to lose out that are doing all of this under the guise of we want to protect the interests of the North. These men send money home and they do a lot and all of that, just like Dr. Tanko has said. All right.
Aisha, right there at the National Assembly, there's provision for electronic voting. We rarely see the parliamentarians use these electronic means of voting. Most of the time, the nays have it or the yeas have it. That's what we hear. Isn't this a good time for the National Assembly to put these electronic devices that they have at the National Assembly to use, at least to appease those who believe that they're trying to subjugate the process?
I think one of the things that we all need to understand is that politicians don't do anything without the incentive that favors them. It's as simple as that.
Absolutely.
For example, they are making all sorts of excuses, and by the way, excuses are like shoes, and you always find the one that fits. And they're talking about other places where it can't be done. They have everything that they can do electronic voting, but they aren't doing it because at the end of the day, it's not going to augur well with them. You're going to see every one of them for who they truly are. And, so that's what it is for for them. There was a question you asked earlier where you said who benefits from the fact that from votes not being transmitted electronically, and I tell you, it's the politicians. And they know most of them are in office not because of the people that voted, but one or two kind of rigging that went on at the collation center, and they do not want anything to stop that. And one of the things that I want us all to understand is that at the end of the day, we Nigerians, the Nigerian people, are the ones who are actually losing. The politicians are having a field day. For them at the National Assembly, I think almost all of them are ruling party members. So it is either you're a ruling party member at the state level, or you are at the federal level, or you are at both level. And so they do not want to lose out. So they're protecting their interests. And that's what the politicians of Nigeria have always done, which is protect their interests. And when they're in power, at any moment they're in power, they always think they won't leave. I remember PDP that would say the 50 years of, they're going to rule for 50 years. And today we are on this side, and they, they're coming out to speak against some of the things that they could have put right that they didn't. And the same thing also, the APC are going to be out of power one day, and they're going to be doing the same thing all over again. I think what is very instructive is the fact that Nigerians should be vigilant. We should, like I've always said, we need more active citizens, not more activists. Nigeria should not sit down and contract out their business to a few people that they term activists to come and do their job. I don't see myself as an activist. I don't want to be on the streets. I want to be at home sleeping by this time of the day, but I'm not. If we look at the other day, Ariyo has, I just want to say to you, thank you so much for being that stopgap for all of us that have not focused on the electoral bill as much as we should have. The last time he called for a protest, opposition parties were invited, but they didn't come. Most of the time, you find out where are the opposition parties? What are they doing? This is the time that you expect them to be out there making the necessary demands that needs to be done. At the National Assembly on that day, there were only a few citizens that were there. And so there is no incentive for them as it is to be out there, because it's either you're gaining at the federal level or you're gaining on this at the state level. But I think what is most instructive is the fact that Nigerians, we must insist on this electronic transaction.
Opposition is right beside you.
Yeah,
I'm
So,
I'm sure Mr. Kola will respond. But before you respond, let me put this question. INEC has since introduced modern technologies to improve the electoral process in the country, and even the incumbent president, President Muhammadu Buhari, has alluded to it. But we've had challenges arising, most times from either smart card reader malfunctioning or outright, failure. Ms. Ologbodiyan, before you respond to Mrs. Yesufu's submissions, on all she said about politicians and their disposition to governance, do you think Nigeria is ready for electronic voting? Is INEC really prepared to drive this process?
Well, thank you very much, but I will quickly respond. I will take it the other way. I will quickly respond to Aisha before I proceed to your question. Aisha alleged that opposition parties were not at the protest organized by the civil rights groups. Well, it's important for Aisha to know, and I believe she knows it, that this was a matter of strategy. If we had gone in line with the demands of the civil rights groups, perhaps we would not have been able to secure what we have secured so far, particularly on Loretta and Noche, and even the submission of the two committees of the parliament on transmission of results. And I say this because for the ruling government, for the ruling party, it would have been convenient for them to allege that the People's Democratic Party or the other opposition parties were responsible for the protest. So they will have modeled up the whole process, the whole campaign in politics. We didn't want that. We allowed the civil rights groups to move first. And as you will recall, the PDP and some other opposition members later went on their own protest, so that Nigerians, including those who are in government today, can see clearly that we are not the ones sponsoring the civil rights. They are doing their things their own way. But to justify our own position too, we have come out to open, even in the rain, and we were received by the leadership of the minority parties. So it is not totally acceptable that the opposition parties abandoned that protest.
It's partially acceptable.
We did not, Aisha, we did not abandon that protest. We had our own protest, and we allow you people, you too, to have your own protest. But having said that, are we really ready as a nation for electronic voting? I believe Nigerians are prepared. They are ready for electronic voting. And I give it to Professor Mahmoud Yakubu. This time, I want to give it to him, that at least he is initiating processes that will ensure that in 2023, elections are credible, free and fair. And I say so because when he was reappointed for this position, the People's Democratic Party served Prof a reminder that the future of this country is going to depend largely on him, and that he has a duty and a responsibility to change his name from what it is today in Nigerian history. And I think that he's working assiduously towards achieving that. So I believe that he has taken it upon himself to serve Nigerians better. And that is why I believe INEC too is supporting this electronic transmission of results. And it is in their interest for Nigerians to give them every reason not to have an excuse ahead of the 2023 elections, including the off-season elections that will come up in Anambra, in Osun, and in Ekiti. INEC must not have a reason to fail. And if you look at the election in Edo, the Edo election largely is not because PDP won, as some of our critics will say outside. It's only when PDP is winning that's when it's democratic. That's not correct. We speak to facts, we speak to truths, we speak to reasons. So if you look at the election in Edo State, it was manifestly and largely, even the one in Ondo, because the technology was deployed. And I want to take us back to what President Muhammadu Buhari always says. He will stand up before Nigerians and declare that he contested the election 3 times and lost until technology was introduced. That it was technology that allowed him to win the election. It is therefore strange to us in the People's Democratic Party that if a man expresses so much support for the use of technology in our elections and is leaving office after a final term on May 29, 2023, why will he not leave a legacy after failing in every other ramification? Why will he not leave at least a legacy in our electoral process? Because as we speak today, there is nothing that President Muhammadu Buhari will be remembered for if you go by what is happening in our country today. So he has a responsibility to ensure that same process that brought him into office, the use of technology that enabled him to win election, should be strengthened in our electoral process.
Dr. Tanko, using electronic gadgets, INEC is already doing that. We know that right now INEC is registering voters electronically, and the electronic transmission of results is like a conclusion of everything that will be done. Just like one of the panelists, I can't remember who exactly, said that if, for whatever reasons, if any of this election results or outcome gets to the court, it will not be admitted if it was an electronic transmission of results that was used as evidence. So to avoid and prevent this and allow a proper conclusion of all the electioneering processes, isn't it the best time now to do that? Because why are we okay? Why do we seem to be okay with one use of electronic gadget in one process and not okay with the other?
Okay, before I delve into your question, let me tacitly answer some of these issues that were raised for the opposition. Although PDP may be tagged as the major opposition political party, some of us who have been on the street, who come from the civil society background, have always been antagonistic to flawed laws. Even in Ariyo's program, I was there. If you remember, I was one of the persons that was even making the assertion. So in all rallies, is that many of us really put attention into PDP only, but we don't look at other political parties who have been doing a wonderful job. Like even having the multi-political party system in Nigeria, it was part of the work of the National Conscience Party. We've always been in any rally, Labour, Congress, anyone you can mention. We've led in the Save Nigeria group. We've led in everywhere. So we have been, even though I will agree with one assertion that we should have been more vociferous in our activities at political party. Probably we will have relieved the civil society of their duties in regard to being political activists, because they wouldn't have had any business to deal with, because we will have been more in action. But that, of course, must have been some of the reason for some of the laws in which we put in place. Take a look at this. The National Conscience Party won election in Ekiti State. But because of these particular draconian laws that we have in our system, somebody will be in a political party in the morning, taking the constitution and the manifesto of that political party, winning election. And then you now come and give me a clause in the Electoral Act and saying that because they are having disparity of certain issues in their own party, then he has that right to move from that party to another party in the middle of the night. I mean, it's completely deceitful. Maybe people do not know. When you contest election, you are sending the manifestos of the political party. It's a social contract between you and then the electorate. And then when you win, it is expected that it is that manifesto that you will administer in your position of power. But here you are, you will move from that particular manifesto and forget about it and just sit in it, hold on to that seat as grip as anything like a Iroko tree, and say, no, you are not leaving that seat, but you are taking another political party manifesto and saying you are holding on to that seat. No, if you are that popular, leave the seat.
All right.
These are some of the things that will lead to this particular question that you've asked as regard to the reason for the electoral. The device is just to transmit results. And the result when transmitters give you credible elections. Result. Remember, some few years ago, any result that has been transmitted, you have these soldiers in the social media. They will give you different results that belong to their own party. You are even confused completely to know which is even the result, for God's sake. Why you voted, the result is being printed, you are seeing it, then they will tell you that result that was printed, no, this is the actual result. In Edo and Ondo, it didn't happen. We completely fizzled out all of these particular social media soldiers. And the right thing, it was done. Everybody was happy. Why is it that when you are happy as a country, is it not bring you comfort and joy? That is exactly what the transmission will do. So for us, it's a kudos for INEC for continuously trying to improve the system. So we shouldn't make it difficult for them. But at the end of it all, we should also know that good results lead to credible candidates. Credible candidates lead to good governance. Good governance lead to comfortable and secured country.
All right, Dari, you know, the 8th Assembly did a lot of work with this Electoral Act Amendment Bill. 3 times they passed the bill, and 3 times the President declined assent to that bill. You have been, you know, working on this for a while now. Is there anything new the 9th Assembly has done with the Electoral Act Amendment Bill?
Like I always try to paint an environment before coming to the specific, and because we have to look at the environment that existed in the 8th National Assembly. That was a parliament that the lawmakers decided to exact their independence by electing the leadership that they so desire. However, even though they were all within the same party, it didn't go down well with some elements within the APC as at that time. So right from the word go, from the onset, when the leadership of the 8th National Assembly emerged, there have been that gulf between the executive and the legislative arm, even though they tried severally, you know, to reach that political truce and work together, but it became difficult. And that gap, I will use political gap really because I didn't see an affront in any way, was what was exploited by some persons over time. And when it now came to the issue of the Electoral Act, which was passed in a record 3-4 times by the 8th National Assembly, the President declined because those who benefited from the candidate, which in a way, the candidate, if you looked at it, the data that we got from the candidate in 2015 might not have in a way promote anything substantial about the election. What am I saying here is that you look at the usage, the level of usage of the card reader in different parts of the country, averagely I think it was less than 20%, because something that malfunctioned on election day. Now, but the president, to the amazement of people actually, talked about the fact that that card reader aided. Now, psychologically, the card reader aided simply because people saw that technology was going to guarantee free and fair elections. So, in a way, it helped to curtail those who would have come to rig elections. So, it's something that was not only psychological, but also helped, you know, to drive transparency in the process. And the president boasted, like it has been said here on several occasions. And so when it now came to the passage of the bill by the 8th National Assembly, who substantially listened to INEC and captured some of the proposals made by INEC, the president declined because he was told that if you sign this law, you are not going to return from what we so heard from people. And the president declined. And that's when, I mean, you realize what the president said at the last minute, when he made the last, when he declined the last time not to sign the bill. The president said that, can I extract a commitment from the National Assembly to sign it, believing that this thing will start, the process of implementation will start post-2019 general election. And that was not good enough in terms of, you know, leadership, because that's is self-serving. It means that she don't want a law validly passed by the National Assembly to be binding on you. All that you seek to do is, you know, to evade a process that is free, fair, and transparent, so that, such that you are able to do whatever you like. It means that at that point in time, the failure of the president, you know, to sign that law, you know, called into questions the process that actually brought him into office. And that's exactly what the president, you know, did by that. So, but with this 9th National Assembly, and I think that's one area which I think we can now exploit. This 9th National Assembly has been seen as a rubber stamp. So if we, as a people of Nigeria, are able to get them to do what is right and able to pass it, we expect the president to have confidence in this, the leadership of the 9th National Assembly, and believing that they must have done what he, as a president, can sign into law. We don't expect that after this bill has been passed, we don't expect that there should be any significant obstacle. And there are reasons that we can always put forward to also prevail on the president. For instance, the president told the Independent National Electoral Commission team led by the chairman about some weeks ago when he visited it. And he said, we are ready to support you. The president told them that we will support you with everything that you need. And for us, everything that INEC, you know, desired includes the passage of the electoral, signing it into law, because that legal framework is very sacrosanct, which will help INEC to conduct free, fair, credible elections. The president has said he's committed to free and fair elections. And the first stake in this commitment is signing this law, signing this bill into law. And so we'll be relying on that, including what he said in 2019, that post-2019 is ready to sign the bill. We shouldn't have gone this far if the National Assembly has merely probably dusted the report of the 8th Senate and made some few amendments and probably sent it back to the president. We'll have gone past this stage right from 2020. But now that we are here, I think that we don't expect the Attorney General of the Federation, who is likely going to brief the president about the summary of this bill or what this bill entails, to stand in the way of the people. However, we have to cross the hurdle today to ensure that those very important provisions that will help to guarantee this openness and transparency, you know, sail through in this repeal and reenactment document, because it's a document that it will repeal what has been in existence, in the sense that to avoid the problem of having many versions. For instance, let me shock you. Today we have different versions of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It was so strange that in 2019, I was with a senior lawyer, and the senior lawyer went to court with a wrong constitution on a dispute that is national. In fact, it was in the dispute between the president and the National Assembly over order of election. And one of the lawyers actually used a wrong constitution to file it. It was when I came and I saw it on his, on table, and we were discussing, and I said, no, this constitution is not the right one. Then I went into my car to bring
The right one.
So now, so that's why I will give credit to the National Assembly for seeing at least this kind of gap and say let us repeal and reenact. So that by the time we are going to have the electoral act, is going to be electoral act 2021, so that we will not have different version of it. But for that compliment that I'm giving to them to become reasonable, they have to do what is in the overall interest of Nigerians.
All right, we're still talking about the close consideration of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill pending today at the National Assembly. We have with us four of our guests here from the civil society group and opposition political parties. We'll take a short break at this point and return to continue our conversation in a moment. Please stay with us. I want to throw to you two questions that you might need to help us answer. There's the allegation of rigging, that the secret inclusion or subtraction of electronic transmission of results is the beginning of a rigging process for 2023 elections. If that is the so, there's also a responsibility, expected of the office of the citizens in watching and being, just being vigilant about these issues. Care to tell us if you agree with it, and what should the citizens' office be doing at this point?
Oh, okay. I think the citizens' office is the highest office in the land. The president's office is the highest political office. So at the end of the day, the citizen is always top. And I think one of the things that citizens must do is that they must be vigilant. They must be active citizens. The issue of saying that, oh, it's politics, I'm not interested in politics, it's over and done with, because governance affects every aspect of our lives. Whether you're sitting down in your little corner, not saying anything about what's happening in terms of governance, it doesn't mean that bad governance will not come to you. Like Giba Kakanda would always say that bad governance is like a stray bullet. It gets to everyone. And so it's imperative for every one of us to be actively involved in what is going on and take part in it. When they call for protest, it's not to sit down and be like, nah, it's you people that want to go. No, it's everybody's business. Even if you're not on the street, there are different ways that you can protest. Whether it's writing an opinion piece, doing whatever you can do in your own capacity, even sending tests to your lawmakers. Their numbers are out there. There are some civil society organizations that are always putting these numbers out. Make use of them. Send text. I mean, the Senate president only just got 900 tests and he's already crying. Imagine when he gets 9 million tests and his number is shut down. He will understand that we're really serious about what is going on. And so when you say the removal of the electronic transmission, it's probably like rigging, beginning of rigging. No, it's maintenance of rigging. It's what has been happening over the years. In 2018, when the president did not assent to the electoral bill, for me, I even did a video and I said, that's it. The election is already concluded. Where are the opposition parties? They all need to come out and ensure that the pressure needed to be put on the president there to sign that bill. But at the end of the day, he got away with it. And my brother here, Ariyo, is saying something about the fact that the president has given his words. People still believe the president's words? He says one thing and he does another thing. For over 6 years, he has been showing us that. Haven't we seen that? And by the way, NBC, this is Aisha Yesufu making a statement. If you have any issue, please knock on my door. Leave AIT out of it. And so the issue of thinking that we'll believe the president's word, it should be taken out of it as it is. Coming back to something that I asserted to earlier on, in terms of when politicians are in power, they forget that, there's likelihood of them not being in power in the nearest future. If you look at the card reader in 2015 election, we had a fairly credible election because of the perception. People knew that, okay, technology was being deployed. If you do anything, if you do anyhow, you see anyhow kind of mentality, and people behaved. But guess that same card reader that the president said, you know, I helped in bringing him to office, guess who challenged that card reader in court? It's still today's one of the opposition parties, PDP. One of their members took the case all the way to the, I think that was in the Wike case. And then what did the Supreme Court say? It said that the card reader is not admissible in the court. And as soon as that judgment was made, it brought back all the dark days back to the Nigerian electoral process, because now people know that they can rig, they can kill, they can maim, they can shoot, they can do all sorts of things, ballot snatching and whatever, and that's what we're seeing right now. We need to understand that if we do not get a credible electoral law going towards the 2023 election, then there will really be no need of voting, because
Aisha,
it will be how violent you are that you will be able to win the election.
That would be very unfortunate. But do you think that the opposition parties are doing enough, you know, enough of calling out this administration fighting for, you know, the electoral amendment bill, and just basically seeing that the electoral laws, you know, are in the best interest of everyone? Because first of all, the political class, the first citizens of Nigeria before their politicians.
There's no opposition. There are no opposition parties in Nigeria today, sadly. And I will say to my brother here, if what you did yesterday is still looking big to you today, then you are not doing enough, according to Jim Rohn. There's really no opposition. A lot of things that this government has gotten away with, and you just find citizens are the ones who are making demands, who are doing, or you're wondering where are the opposition parties. But then there's really no opposition, because they are the same. APC and PDP, what's the difference? They move, they are here in the morning, in the afternoon, they are there by the dinner time, they are having fun somewhere, they move all the way. So it's the same party that we have. And the Nigerian people are actually the opposition, and it's very important for us to sit out and speak. And then one of the things I would like to say is that if the opposition party are having to tell us what they're doing, it's not we being overwhelmed with what they're doing, then there's a problem. And there's this issue of saying, oh, we don't want it to be turned political. Life is politics. When I was coming out here, I was deciding whether to wear brown hijab or blue hijab. That was politics. I was making a decision. So if you're coming out, things are happening in the country, and the opposition parties are saying that they are afraid for things to be turned political, and they are not speaking out, they are leaving it to only citizens. That's not the way it should be done. They should be put the ruling party on its toes. Right now, the ruling party is getting away with almost practically everything.
I'm sure Mr. Kola, Ologbodiyan, and of course Dr. Tanko will want to respond quickly to that. Beyond, you know, issuing press statements and organizing press briefings, how else has the opposition political parties in the country, you know, played their role in terms of effectively holding the government in power to account?
Thank you. Foremost, let me disagree with Aisha on the statement that PDP and APC are the same. I will never sit anywhere and accept that PDP and APC are the same. We are two different political parties. If you look at our formation, like I've repeatedly said, and I've also said on this program, the founders of the People's Democratic Party came together because they want to keep the military at bay in their barracks and not to participate in governance. And they succeeded. And we're talking about what we hold as sacred: equity, fairness, justice, improved democracy. These are our own disposition in the political environment. Will you say that about APC? APC was formed by people who were aggrieved, a bunch of beguilers and liars who told Nigerians that they were taking them to El Dorado and set them on a journey to nowhere. APC believes in division of Nigerians across along ethnic lines. We don't believe in that. We believe in the unity of this country. APC is not fair, it's not equitable, even to their own members.
Mr. Ologbodiyan, I believe that the reason you are in politics is, of course, to use this as a vehicle to improve the lot of the people. Now, since the APC assumed power in 2015, how often has the People's Democratic Party, I'm talking about your party now, you know, reached out to the government in power on how to resolve some of these challenges confronting the country? I mean, have you reached out as a political party to the government in power?
Unfortunately, you have a system of governance that is all-knowing, that does not believe in whatever any other person or any party or any group or any interest is saying. That's the unfortunate situation. As we speak today, President Muhammadu Buhari has not appointed a special advisor, a special assistant, or a minister on interparty relations. That does not exist anywhere.
There is an essay on political affairs or political matters?
I'm talking about interparty relations. That existed in the life of every administration under the People's Democratic Party. So how do you engage? So, and when people say that, oh, APC did everything to bring down this nation, and that PDP should follow in that direction, it's going to be difficult for the People's Democratic Party to do the kind of brigandage that APC did ahead of 2015 election. Because we believe that a country, as a party, we believe that a country must exist first before politics begin, before election goes over. So as a result of that, we will not do a thing like the APC did and stop the People's Democratic Party administration from getting military hardware to fight insurgency. The PDP will not do that, because at the end of it all, it is our country. What did they do to the People's Democratic Party that we are all suffering for today? Even when the administration of President Goodluck Jonathan tried to go through the black market to get military hardware, they went to South Africa and blocked the process. And I'm not sure today whether the fund that was seized in South Africa had been released to us. So in the face of insecurity that Nigerians are confronting today, do we now go to America and say that they should not supply them to Kano on the ground of alleged human rights abuses? The People's Democratic Party will not do that. That will make Nigerians to suffer the more. And that is why today it is becoming extremely difficult for the Buhari administration to manage the insecurity. But if they had allowed the People's Democratic Party administration of Goodluck Jonathan to fight insurgency the way it desires to them, we wouldn't have been here today.
All right.
We cannot do the kind of brigandage that APC did. But we will continue using our parliamentarians in the National Assembly to engage the government constructively on the issue of this electoral act, as well as the appointment of Loretta Onoche. I know that our members in the parliament, like Honorable Chinda, like Honorable Lumelu, like Ike Ekwerimadu, like the former governor of Bayelsa State, they fought vehemently, and I'm sure Ariyo can testify.
All right, Kola.